Hi, I'm Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. I want to welcome you to part two of a two-part series on school policy recommendations. Brother Be Well last summer worked with a small cohort of young people from all across the country to take a look at local school districts here in California and develop a set of recommendations with regard to policies on substance use prevention and mental health. We worked over the course of a 10-week period, half an hour every week, and our young people really dug in. You're going to get to meet a few of those young people in just a few minutes, but this is the second part of our presentation to go over those findings and recommendations that the young people put together. You may be asking yourself why an organization like Brother Be Well would be interested in substance use prevention. Mental health makes a lot of sense, but you may be wondering why we're folding substance use prevention in. And then you also may be wondering why an academic institution needs to be concerned about that, especially in an environment where resources are limited. We asked our Brother Be Well clinical advisor, Christian Jacobs, he's a licensed marriage and family therapist, that very question during part one. In case you missed that or you watched it a while ago, we're going to bring Christian back right now to kind of set the stage for what one of our mentors is going to do, walking us through the balance of those districts. Hey, what's up, Christian?
Hey, what's up, Michael?
Really good to see you again, man. Why don't you answer that question again? I don't mean to be redundant, but why don't you tell everybody watching this one? There could be people watching part two, they're watching them in a different order. So why don't you just talk to us just a little bit about why schools need to be focused and attentive to mental health and substance use prevention in the schools?
Well, here's a new answer to kind of put the carrot out. So there'll be something different for each one. This part, why it's so important, is there is a Adderall shortage right now in the United States. Federal government has released a notice saying that there's a shortage of Adderall. What does that mean? A high percentage of our students in elementary school, junior high, K-12, and higher ed are using Adderall for things such as ADHD. High number, high percentage. With that being said, the why is, now knowing this, we have to understand how to be able to work in the school districts and use things outside of medication, which is some of our skills. And so that's the why. And because those medications now lead to other substances. So when a student doesn't have their prescription, many people will sometimes rely on street drugs to kind of offset the lack of medication. That's not really talked about much right now. So that's the why. Also, disciplinary actions, talk about disciplinary actions, the use of substances, for a growing brain, that this is not growing until 25, these substances could create these behavioral issues in class. And of course, that falls on the teacher. So then we have statistics and the numbers showing, and drug use much at a higher rate. And, there's no such thing as a gateway drug anymore. I was talking about last time, because fentanyl is really taking over. So there's still a few factors that are really playing a part to that why factor.
I don't mean to date myself, Christian, but I'm going to. I remember when school districts had just begun to think about providing meals in schools. And there was research that said if a student is dealing with food insecurity, if they're from a home where resources are limited and they're showing up in school and they haven't had breakfast, they're not going to learn effectively. So they decided in the school, that maybe some people probably decided that was a home dining room or a restaurant issue. In the schools, they started serving meals. Today's audience, we don't think twice about that. We're getting our students ready to learn. And I would think I'm seeing a connection there. Taking care of education with regard to substance use prevention and mental health is a part of getting that student ready to do the best they can once they sit down at the desk and start learning. Would you agree?
Yeah, you're talking about what you're talking about is basic needs, right? Food and housing, those basics that before we diagnose them with ADHD, can we assess to see if they had a meal last night, which will make you shake, right? If you haven't eaten in 3 days, if we assess to see what type of foods are taking in, then maybe a diabetic, they're not receiving the proper nutrition. We haven't talked about disabilities and food allergies, things that sort. So you're on the right track with that, Michael.
Wow. Christian, hang tight. I appreciate you providing the conversation with a little context. Hang tight, because once Conrad is done, we're going to bring you back and bring some of our youth back, and I'll have a broad conversation about some of these findings. Appreciate your help. Next up, I've got Conrad Crump. I talked about that Youth Summer Institute that we hosted last summer. Conrad was one of two mentors that we had on deck each and every week, 4 hours a week. Brother Conrad affectionately known as Coach Crump. Hey, what's up, Crump?
What's up, Michael? How you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. Sometimes I like to take the coach off. I like to just call you Crump. I know you don't mind that.
I'm good with that. It's all good.
I appreciate the time that you've taken. Part 1 was phenomenal, so I'm going to back out of your way. You're going to start us out with district number 8. We had a total of 15. You covered 7 in that first half, that first part of the presentation. So I'm going to back out, man. Why don't you hit it and let us know what our students came up with regard to recommendations on substance use prevention policies and mental health policies. Take it away.
Sure thing. Well, thanks again, Michael, and greetings, everyone. This is Conrad Crump, affectionately known as Coach Crump, and we are back with another one, just like the other one, having another robust discussion on substance use prevention and mental health resources provided by school districts in the greater Sacramento area. And much like Michael said, if you didn't get the opportunity to see the first half, which contains our presentation on the analysis of the first 7 school districts, please go ahead and stop this video right now. Go check that out. Listen to the discussion. Very robust, very rich, and then come back so that you can be caught up on this conversation. But going into our 8th school district, the 8th school district we talked about was the River Delta School District. And like a few other school districts from our first presentation, River Delta School District has no available resources for substance use prevention. Now, while they do have a link for mental health and crisis services, we found out that that link actually leads to a blank page. I hope they got that fixed by now, but that was one of the things that many of our youth participants felt was not a good look. Not only for our Brother Be Well participants, but even the students that are in that district. Some of the students within the Brother Be Well program came up with recommendations. One of those recommendations from our youth included creating a mentorship program with mental health counselors or trained professionals, which could allow students the opportunity to discuss their own challenges and identify resources for students that may be addicted to substances and have support provided for them. Another youth participant recommended posting flyers throughout campuses and spreading awareness throughout their community. They also suggested the creation of an advocacy club throughout the district to support the push for mental health and substance use prevention resources. Now, the next district that we went ahead and looked at was the Robla Elementary School District. With the Robla Elementary School District, again, like other districts, there was no formal policy for substance use prevention provided for students outside of the direction to community resources. Many of our Brother Be Well participants felt that the Robla Elementary School District's website could actually serve as a strong example to other districts who did not provide any resources. They stated that even if the resources were not directly provided by the district, at least showing resources that exist in the local community can still prove beneficial to students and their families. Another one of our youth participants stated that students may not even be aware of the resources that are listed on their district's website. Having these resources posted throughout their campus would actually be a better way of communicating the available assistance because these are the programs that are provided locally. Another participant recommended organizing school assemblies to better educate enrolled students on mental health and substance use disorder. Another one of our students suggested including partnering with mental health counseling centers and developing advocacy groups and conducting online and in-person student events to help raise awareness. So these are just but a few of the recommendations that came from the Robla School District. Now, our next district is what I am a product of, is the Sacramento City Unified School District. And our youth participants actually expressed their appreciation and satisfaction with the extensive mental health policies and offerings provided by the Sac City Unified School District. However, our youth participants were actually dissatisfied with the lack of available policies and offerings as it relates to substance use prevention. One student identified that Sacramento City Unified School District, being in a larger city of Sacramento, has a lot more cases of substance use disorder and felt that more resources for substance use prevention would be beneficial for all students in the district. Another one of our participants stated that the focus on the social emotional learning component could be directed towards substance use prevention. Additionally, participants would prefer to see the Sac City Unified School District implement programming similar to the Brother B. Wells Youth Substance Use Prevention Summer Academy, just as an idea. For instance, Sac City Unified School District could provide community education workshops that promote awareness of different substances and how they can affect our health. The education provided from the workshops could ultimately deter other students from experimenting with substances. Another one of our participants suggested that Sac City Unified School District's mental health policies and offerings should be presented to other districts that don't have extensive mental health policies, and offerings like this could motivate other districts to increase their offerings to their students. I believe it was you, Michael P. Coleman, that also provided some feedback and stated how he appreciated the different mental health resources that were available for teachers and parents and caregivers, and that he also appreciated how the policies distinguished between out-of-school suicide attempts and in-school suicide attempts. So these are but a few of the recommendations from Sacramento City Unified School District, but there were a lot more that were had in our discussions. Going on to our next school district was the St. Hope Public Schools. And while this school prides itself on mainly serving many students of color, there actually aren't any available resources or formal policies for substance use prevention or mental health. Now, given that this is a smaller district, it only includes one elementary school, one middle school, and one high school. A suggestion was made that they may want to partner with Sac City Unified School District, given that Sac City's district has a robust mental health policies and offerings. So that might be an idea for St. Hope, given that St. Hope is in the city of Sacramento. Another one of our youth participants added the idea of a type of referral form. The rationale being behind that if anyone notices anything, they can complete the form and obtain support, or they might even be able to complete the form to recommend support for another student who may be going through a crisis. Another suggestion from one of our students was that we had rather be, given a list of nonprofits that might be willing to provide free training and workshops to the school community. This youth participant, had actually previously interned with a couple of nonprofits that were actually searching for clients who would benefit from their free training and workshops. So really connecting those dots to the folks in need and to the providers that are willing to provide the services. Another one of our students recommended that St. Hope provide at the very least, very least, information on their website that could direct folks to their mental health hotlines or counseling centers that were provided locally in the area. And lastly, it would be ideal for St. Hope to provide resources and teachings to parents as well as teachers. And that rationale behind that would be so that we can ensure that parents and teachers are informed and equipped to care for and work with our students. All right, going on into our next discussion. Now, the next discussion was a bit different because we really assessed the Sacramento County Office of Education's school-based mental health and wellness initiative. And now our Brother Be Well participants were asked the specific question of what was their opinion of the mental health and wellness initiative, and what additions and or omissions would they make and why. Overall, our youth participants thought the initiative was very robust and extensive and very well prepared. However, they did feel that there could have been a link between mental health and substance use to demonstrate how these two often go hand in hand. Another one of our participants suggested that professionals that are employed by the Sacramento County Office of Education be bilingual and or culturally competent, stating that there was a large need for these professionals to reflect the diverse populations that they serve. In addition, this participant added that any of the advertisements or materials that might go out to communities should also reflect the populations that they serve, as this is important in helping this initiative be more approachable and accessible to the many diverse communities. Another one of our youth participants recommended educating teachers and families of the county. Rationale behind that was that so teachers and parents are equipped to support students who are experiencing mental health challenges or substance use disorder on their campuses or in their homes. And finally, a youth participant recommended a program that emphasized the importance of student voice and advocacy, where leadership positions could be made in schools and where students could be the representatives and actually speak directly to the Sac County Office of Education staff or leaders about their experiences on campus relating to mental health and substance use disorder. A large, robust discussion, and definitely want to hear from our young folks as they come on to the discussion later on. Now, the next school district that we identified was the Fortune School. As you can see, there's no formal policy or substance use prevention listed on their website, but there was evidence of a wellness committee. And while there was an appreciation from our youth participants of this wellness committee, our participants felt that the wellness committee may not be as effective if it did not include substance use disorder or mental health as a key component. Another student actually appreciated the school wellness committee's focus, however, on nutrition and physical activity, as they noticed that many other districts had not demonstrated a commitment to nutrition and wellness. Another one of our brilliant young men suggested creating a spirit week that highlighted certain topics relating to mental health and substance use disorder. For example, students could have the ability to create posters or develop awareness videos, ultimately inspiring them and their peers to stay healthy and make wise decisions. Lastly, a recommendation of creating a wellness committee led by students would allow students to spread awareness of the various mental health issues they had identified throughout the academic year, and they can communicate that back up to school facilitators, faculty, staff, and so on. For our next school district, it was the San Juan Unified School District, and our participants actually felt that the San Juan Unified School District's mental health and substance use policies were very sound and actually could serve as a model for other districts to follow. This ultimately could inspire other districts to implement their own health and substance use prevention policies. Our Brother Be Well youth also appreciated that the San Juan Unified School District kept parents involved, as student behaviors are often made manifest at home and ultimately carried onto the school campus. Another one of our participants inquired about the existence of an evaluation component to ensure that the district is able to understand if the policies that they've implemented are actually effective or not. Again, these school districts, have varied from many of the services and offerings that they provided. So a lot of our youth really took their time to give some thoughtful consideration to their responses. And lastly, the final district we assessed was the Twin Rivers Unified School District. Now, much like the San Juan Unified School District, our Brother Be Well participants really appreciated the Twin Rivers implementation of Care Solace into their formal policies, and noticed that Twin Rivers was actually the only Sacramento County school district that had formal policies to support LGBTQ plus students. Our youth stated that many LGBTQ plus students experienced hate and bullying, which is why these policies to support LGBTQ plus students are very much needed. Another one of our brilliant participants wanted to be sure that the Twin Rivers mental health and substance use prevention policies were effectively advertised and easy to find, as this person stated that many students may not directly visit their own school's website, or I should say school district's website. With that being said, another one of our participants wanted to ensure that teachers and staff were equipped to work with students who are undergoing mental health and substance use challenges. And they said that maybe if we could potentially organize school assemblies where students and guest speakers can come and talk about resources or programs that have helped them overcome their own mental health challenges or substance use disorder issues. All in all, we had a number of fruitful conversations and discussions with our youth participants, and we were very, very appreciative of the many recommendations and responses that they provided. And at this time, I'll turn it back over to you, Michael, to go ahead and kick it off for the next part of our conversation.
We appreciate your part of this conversation, Conrad. I just realized we've worked together now for a couple of years. And until the first part of this, I've never seen you present in this way before. So this is a different side of you that I'm getting to see. Really, really appreciate the thoughtfulness that you took to walk us through the balance of the district, my friend. I'm going to bring Christian Jacobs, our licensed marriage and family therapist and Brother Be Well clinical advisor, back up. Brother Christian, I've got two questions for you. Conrad touched on cultural competence, and you touched on that during part one of this conversation. So I want to ask you, how important is it? It's a term, I don't want to say it's overused, but it's thrown around a lot. How important is cultural competence when a school district is putting together policies with regard to substance use prevention and or mental health?
It's the bread and butter, man. It's the peanut butter and jelly. It goes hand in hand, and it's connected. It should be connected, because I'll tell you why. When you're looking into race and health equity, there's other areas too. So if you say cultural competence, and it's a cliche term, but another part is cultural awareness, cultural responsiveness. So yes, we can be competent, but can we engage in an effective manner, and can we respond in the effective manner? So those are the two areas where, we're looking at how important it is. There's equity gaps. We know that. There's plenty of data, information, and stats to show the equity gaps are huge when it comes to men, women, boys, and girls of color. So that's the huge part. So for school districts, we're looking at potential gaps. The assessment and survey is beneficial to them. We're looking to see how their programs are being ran. And if they have equity component, if they don't, how could they include that? And outside of race, we're not just talking about race, we're talking about equity. We're talking about, language barriers, translation services. If someone speaks Hmong and they're having a issue with a cultural understanding of substance use, of alcohol, how do we translate that? So this is why, the health, race equity, and affinity group disparities are important. Affinity groups, talking about the LGBTQIS plus and that neurodivergent community as well. It's about 15-20% of students are neurodivergent, who learn differently. So that's why it's really important.
Really appreciate that, Christian. And I don't want to get hung up on semantics, but cultural competence, I always struggle with that term, because my personal view is that you could never really be 100% competent with regard to other cultures. I've heard another term, cultural humility. Any thoughts about the shift in our thinking a little bit about trying to achieve something that we probably never achieve? Most of us grow up in one or two at best communities. And so to think that you could be culturally competent for all the different cultures that are represented is probably unrealistic. That's just my thought. What do you think about that?
That's a good point. And this is a good way to look at it. So if I'm working with the African-American community, it depends on what role you're operating. You could be a peer advocate, you could be a teacher, you could be a therapist, you could be a friend. Cultural competency is defined based on the role you're playing, right? So my level of cultural competency is going to be a little bit more critical in nature, but also it'll be better if I do have that street knowledge of what happens when you walk into a house, a Latino family or African-American family. Who do you speak to first? That comes from street knowledge, and that's something the book can't teach you. So there's applied knowledge, so it depends on what role you're playing. And, cultural humility is almost like saying, I'm aware and I respect the art. I may not be able to do it, I may not be able to implement it, but I respect it. Cultural competence is saying, I'm competent in that area I'm serving, therapist, teacher, and then the cultural, other part, the responsive is now I know the interventions, I know what to use to reach this person. And so we're never going to be fully, equipped. We can be, well equipped just through those type of things.
Really appreciate you helping us make that distinction. Before I bring those three students we talked about back to this conversation, Conrad, a quick question for you. You mentioned two different districts, San Juan Unified, I believe, and Twin Rivers, that had done, in our students' perception, a pretty good job. And one you even mentioned could be a model for everybody else who's maybe not quite as far along with regard to that. I know you got a lot of knowledge about area school districts. Where do those two districts fit in terms on that spectrum of resources? Are those two of the bigger ones, medium-sized, smaller? And in terms of the funding to those districts, where do they sit,
Yeah, well, Twin Rivers, to my knowledge, is not a very large district. But I know that the population that they serve are a lot of impacted students, particularly in the Del Paso Heights neighborhood. So, with that being said, they're really making it a point to look at what the needs of their students are and try to provide resources for them. It's not, like they have a lot of money. It's not like they have a lot of resources, but the resources that they do provide are really tailored and crafted towards the students and populations that they serve, which I think is really, like a lot of the young folks found, was really kind of like a model that we want to try to see other districts do. Because if you can really pinpoint where the needs are and identify those needs and try to provide resources to meet those needs, you're really doing, a service rather than just providing something that a lot of people may not necessarily need or even want. So I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, you hit right on it. That's what I was wondering. I didn't think that was one of the larger districts. So that means that's not the deepest pot of money, but it's an example of a district that's really got their ear to the ground, so to speak, and finding out what their students need and then putting resources toward that. So I love the way you painted that they can provide a model and our students start their work. We've talked about those students a lot, y'all. So now it's time to bring 3 of them back. I wish we could have got the whole cohort from the summer. You know how young people are, young people and old people. Folks are off and doing other things. So we were happy with 3 of our students from this past summer could join us. I'm going to introduce you to them right now. Joel Swazo first. Joel is coming back to us after a 10-week stint with Brother Be Well. We worried we might have worn out these students' welcome. So we wondered when we put this together, are they going to say, I'm tired of talking to y'all, I want to be a part of it? So we were happy when they proved otherwise. What's up, Joel? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Really good. Great to see you again. Next up, Erick Gonzales. Let's pull him in. Erick's another one who continued to blow our minds this summer, and we were happy when he decided to check in. I don't think I'm throwing him under the bus, but this is a young man who, I don't know what he's going to decide to do career-wise, but if it's broadcasting it anyway, listen to that name. You're going to see that name again because he's a podcaster. He's amazing behind Mike. What's up, Erick?
I'm doing good. Thank you for the compliments. Really, it means a lot. And, it's always fun to engage in these conversations with all y'all.
Really good to have you. Welcome back. And Michael Betlach, he's a Sac State student right here in my backyard. Always good to have him. What's up, Michael?
What's up, Michael? How you doing?
Really good. Really good to see you. Why don't we kick it off with you, Michael? We just heard from 8 of those other districts in part 2. We took care of part 1 in that first video, but based on what you heard, anything come back to mind from the work that we did, and anything you want to reflect on from a personal perspective? Anything that Conrad shared that you kind of want to touch on, or did it raise something for you that you want to just kind of throw out to the group?
Yeah, when Coach Crump was going on his presentation, what struck my eye was the Roblox School District. I remember when we were speaking about them and, what they had on their website, it wasn't even really their specific resources. It's just they had a page, for local resources regarding substance abuse and mental health for the students. I feel like that's something that, every school district can do at the bare minimum. While he was going over that, it doesn't take much to, open up a document, a Word document or something, make it look nice, provide local resources regarding mental health and substance abuse, just print it out on those Word documents and then put it throughout the school, give it to teachers, mail it to parents, post it around the school. And I feel like that's the bare minimum that all these school districts can do. It'll take a night at least, for the school districts who probably don't have as much funding or, other stuff that's holding them back from actually putting these policies into play. This is something that everyone can do. And I'm sure that it'll help a lot of students if they can at least do that.
You just reminded me, Mike, I can't remember what district it was, and I didn't see it in the report. There was one district that had a button on their website, and it said, it didn't say if you're in crisis, but it said, if you need more information on mental health, click here. And then we clicked on it and nothing happened. Do y'all remember that? And we were all scratching our head going, oh man, it would be worse to have nothing at all than to have something to dangle that carrot and say, click here for help. And then it didn't take you anywhere. So I like what you said, Michael, that it doesn't take a lot. It might seem like it if you're starting from scratch, but you could put a little in place if you're one of those districts that doesn't have anything there, and they kind of build it as we go along. Joel, what are your thoughts on all of these balance of districts that we just heard from, and any one point that you'd like to reflect on before we get to our next question today?
Yeah, I would love to answer that. A couple of them that stood out to me was, I believe Sac City was
providing some type of workshops either to teachers or kids about, substance abuse or, how to cope with that, mental health. I think that's a very good way to, connect teachers, connect counselors, connect case managers to these youth so they can see that, we're trying to help them, we're trying to guide them in the right direction. And I would also say, I believe it was the Fortune School that they were focusing on. I remember it coming up in the summer program that they focused majority of on nutrition. So, health is wealth, and that is one way to go about it. But also, we need to put that mental health in there, and we also need to put that substance abuse health in there. So.
Talk about that a little bit more, Joel, as long as you're talking about it. We've talked about nutrition off and on the Brother Be Well platform, actually, we have a nutritionist, and we got a series of videos that talk about nutrition impacting mental health, and the two are very much connected. Talk about a little bit more, Joel, about why schools need to have a really holistic approach to making sure their students are best positioned to learn. So it's substance use prevention. It's finding out, listening to what they need. It's finding out where the needs are. It's building mental health in. Talk about it just a little bit, maybe through the lens of what was in your own high school.
Yeah, so for me, nutrition was a little bit there. It wasn't really that much implemented, but going back to health is wealth, the way we feel is the way we function, along with mental health. Our brain is one of the major components that controls our emotions. And when those emotions are down, we tend to, our youth or, start to experiment, or maybe, don't really know good coping mechanisms. And then they start to want to indulge in these substance abuses, or just are not sure really what they need to be doing to, stay on that good path.
One of the things I appreciate that, Joel, one of the things I love about the work that we do with Brother Be Well is we all, if you just took a look at the six of us, we've all got different journeys, right? We come from different backgrounds. We've got different challenges. We all have different physical health challenges. We've all got different mental health challenges, but it's about finding those commonalities in other people. Christian, I'm reminded of a video that you and I did. We're in the middle of the video. I had no idea that your background kind of mirrored part of mine. And we were talking about one topic. Go to brotherbewell.com to check out this series of videos with me and Christian. But we kind of came together on this childhood drama that I hadn't even seen. And I think one of the things that maybe faculty and staff rather, who may not have had the very direct mental health or substance use challenges that their students do, but you've had some kind of challenge. You can relate to that student in some kind of way and make sure you're providing support and resources to those students. Does everybody agree with that? That we can all find a way to connect with the kid, that you don't necessarily have to. We've talked about food insecurity. I don't happen to know. I'm lucky enough to not know what that's like, but I do know what some other things are like. I know what anxiety is like. I know what depression is like. I know what suicidal ideation is. So I can relate to students who struggle and have something holding them back. Would you agree? Maybe this is a good one for you, Christian. You're our licensed marriage and family therapist. How do we connect best? How do administrators best get plugged in and get fired up about providing services for students when they might not have that personal experiences?
That's an excellent question, because that's asked a lot within the schools, and people can't relate. They don't have that level of empathy, right? So you hit the nail on the head when you said that, if I may not be able to live that experience, but, I can live a different experience relating that way. And that's what it's about. It's really about where we can relate to touch a student or a faculty to see the buy-in is the same. Students are coming to the class, and parents and faculty, the focus is the same for that student to pass next level and to learn. So when we don't also understand that, we can say, it's in your best interest to really figure out and learn and accept and absorb the trainings to help the people you're teaching on a day-to-day basis. Because you may not live their same entity, but by you becoming more culturally competent, aware, and responsive, it's going to help that student meet the goal that everyone's trying to get them to, which is the next.
I appreciate that, Christian, really giving us that context, that empathy that we've got to have to really make things happen for our students and make sure that that they're supported and that they get everything they need out of school. I'm gonna do a quick little round robin. We always run out of time during these conversations, so before we get to a closing question, I'm gonna just go around and give everybody an opportunity. You're sitting in front of administrators and school staff, and they're making a decision. Let's say, obviously this current school year, 2023-24 is already rolling, but they're putting a budget together for 2024-25. And they're making some critical decisions right now about whether they're going to fund mental health, are they going to fund substance use prevention, or are they going to fund something else? So I'm going to give everybody 2 minutes. You're right in front of that administrator. Make it. Let's start out with Conrad smiling. So I think something tells me Conrad could talk somebody in a little bit of anything. So I'm going to hold him.
I mean, I'll just say, I would just say, local control funding formula, the LCAP, local control accountability plan, where you're looking at your overall monies that's going to be disseminated in your district. Make sure that you have money set aside for mental health for students. Make sure that you also have money set aside for substance use prevention education set aside for your K through 12 students. It is imperative, not just for your students, but for your faculty and your staff. If you got to pull money from your student resource officers, or maybe even rename the name resource officer, as officer might, trigger something else for a student who might have some mental health challenges. These are all things that can all be seamlessly, connected and remedied if there are adequate and appropriate funds provided, so that way students as well as teachers and faculty and staff can be able to identify some of the challenges and really assist some of the students that might have some of those substance use challenges that they may be experiencing. So I would say that making sure that the money is set aside for that, and at the very least also, even if you don't have much money, put something on your district website that shows resources in your area. A general Google search can help you find, resources that are locally accessible for students and even their families. So that way a parent or a caretaker might be having a crisis. They can go to your website and click and then find the information there. These are things that can at least be a start to creating that change that we want to see in the community.
You could start. That's a great set of tips, Conrad. You could start with brotherbewell.com. Put that website on your site, and that's a good start. And we've done some of the work for you already. I don't mean to turn this into a commercial for Brother Bewell. Part of my job. Brother Betlach, what would you have to say? You got 2 minutes with a school administrator. They're going to make after that conversation, they're going to say yay or nay to funding and support to mental health and substance use prevention. What would you say?
I feel like I would start off just, imploring them to look at, our presentation and look at the work we've done. We're the students here talking to you, and we're telling you what we need. We're a small group, so it's not, the majority of the students, but I can guarantee if you put out a survey to all the students within your school, in your school districts, they're going to, say stuff along the same lines. So I would implore you to talk to your students, to figure out what they want around mental health and substance abuse. And you're going to see that there is a need there. You just have to engage with the students. And then another tip I would have for the school administrators is just, reach out for help around the community. There are people out there who want to help, regarding mental health and substance abuse. If you contact a nonprofit like Coach Crump said, or contact, a therapist, or just any type of resource within the community, I'm sure they can spend a day just coming out and talking to the students and, providing any type of resources that they have. And so if you don't have, specific resources that you can put into it, reach out for the help. Rather than doing nothing, I feel like that's, something anybody can do. And it's a big thing that I feel like all school districts should be doing.
I can tell you right now, if I'm that administrator, I'm funding both of y'all. I can tell you that right now. You made really good cases. So the pressure's on you, Erick. You got a minute or two. You're talking to an administrator. What would you say succinctly and briefly to convince that administrator that they need to take everything we've said seriously and fund the program at their school?
How am I supposed to follow that? That's what I'm thinking. I was kind of like making up a thing in my head. I'm like, man,
If anybody can do it, you can do it, my brother. I've seen you do it before.
if I were to say something, I'd probably pull something out of my own experience. And something that I see that's very like underutilized, especially in some places, is the formation of clubs and organizations within the school that'll help with it. Because what I went from my school, we had a thing called the Coalition of Student Wellness, which is mainly focused around students, and it's led by students in order to push mental health. And we held all these events for people in order to do so. I'm not necessarily sure if it was funded though by the school, but what I was thinking is that if the school can get in touch or can help in the formation of a club in which has students who are interested in mental health, have them lead it, of course, along with having an advisor to sort of guide them and give them the reins and say, hey, do this, do this, do this. And, they have creative liberties. That's similar to what I did at my school. So I feel like something like that, especially backed by the school itself, would definitely have the students' voices out, get the messages out and make students seem like, what, if a person my age is talking about this, why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I be interested? If they're interested, maybe I would be interested as well, of course. Of course, they could also get in contact with, like Michael said, different sorts of organizations that the students can work with. And along with pulling in, like, let's say, the occasional speaker to come speak to them, and even get presentations by students informing them about mental health and the effects of it as well.
Funded. So Joel, you got your work cut out for you. You don't want to be the only one whose program doesn't get funded. What you got, man? What can you say? Erick, I love how you made it personal. So you took a look at your personal experience and talked about the clubs in your school. So that's the way we got to reach those administrators. And let me be clear, some of them, the work's already been done. They've got a commitment already. We saw from the work we did, most districts have done some things, but we're trying to get people to ramp it all up. Very few districts, I think maybe 2 or 3 of the 15 we said could be models for everybody else. So there's room for improvement for everybody. We're not beating up on those districts that haven't done anything. Joel, what can you say to that administrator right now before we wrap up to convince him or her that they need to fund something at their school?
Cool. So, what I would like to say is, the youth in elementary school, middle school, high school, that they're the future. So we got to look out for them now while they're young, so they can have a great life and a great future. Like everyone else said, set aside money. Hire. One of my personal experiences, going back to Erick, is I would say one thing that I like about Brother Be Well is that they have mentors who have lived experience, who have went through, substance challenges, hardship challenges, mental health challenges, and they're here to provide that expertise and that experience that they have went through to guide us youth who don't know those ropes, or who don't know the road or the path that they choose if they do want to indulge in substances. So I think that is a really big one. And I would also say, send out flyers with the youth, give them to your parents, put them on social media. Overall, I would say connect with the parents and connect with the youth as much as you can. And definitely going back to what Erick said is have the youth at the schools or at the resource places advocate to other youth, because usually, if you want to fit in, or if you want to be like someone else, or just acceptance overall, you're going to want to, not indulge in that, or just advocate for, a good well-being, not interacting in substance abuse, because your peers, your friends, your loved ones are also doing the same. So,
wow, funded 100%. I'm funding yours too, Joel, and I hope somebody else listens to something that you guys had to say. Before we get into closing thoughts, I just want to reflect. I asked you guys before to talk about a little bit your own high school, and I'm thinking about something you said, Erick. I remember in high school for me, and I came from a house with a lot of trauma in it, and no resources at that high school. Not even no counselor, no teacher that was well-versed, it's still a lot of stigma. I mean, there's still stigma right now with regard to mental health. Let me be clear about that. But man, if you go back a couple of decades, the stigma was crazy. You would never even talk about it. No student in school would come forward and say, you know, I'm depressed or I have anxiety or I'm thinking about ending my life or my father's an alcoholic. You wouldn't hear that. So society has come a long way that we could do the work that we did. And of the 15 schools, there was maybe a handful that were, you know, little to nothing, but other schools had done quite a lot. So we need to pat ourselves on the back as a society. We're moving in the right direction. But I think we would all acknowledge that we still have a lot of work to do. And that's what our work was about last summer. That's what Brother Be Well is all about, trying to help people and organizations get better. As we get ready to wrap up, we always run out of time. So I need closing thoughts from all of you. I'm going to kick it back to Coach Crump. First of all, to kick us off, I love the way he kicks us off. The reason we call him Coach Crump is he would come up with these motivational mini speeches, man, and it would be hyped. We would be ready to go. So Coach Crump, give us your closing thoughts on this broad work that we did, not just tonight, but also part one. Close us out. Closing thought, 60 seconds or less. What do you want to leave people with that are watching?
Phenomenal work with these young folks who are just brilliant minds. You know, as a youth mentor and subject matter expert and someone who has the lived experience, you know, I feel really privileged to be able to share my experience with someone who may be thinking about going down the road that, you know what I mean, may not serve their best interests. I know there's a quote from Frederick Douglass, and I'm probably going to mess it up, but at least you can get the gist of what I'm saying, where he says it's easier to repair or to teach young children than it is to repair broken men. And, you know, with that being said, you know, my life worth and duty is to try to make sure that the folks who are coming behind me that I'm passing the baton to will know the road that's ahead of them, know the pitfalls and the booby traps and the landmines that await them in their life to being a you know, positive, healthy man. So I would just say that is something that I've experienced with these young folks, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
I have said it before. I'm going to say it again. I love you, Conrad Crump.
Right back.
I'm dedicating the balance of my life to that too. I'm not going to be here to see, you know, Martin Luther King said, I've been to the mountaintop, I can see the promised land. I might not get there with you. I'm not going to be here as long as y'all young people are going to be here, but I want to do I call it a download with the youth that I'm in. So I'm downloading everything I know. It's not everything, but I'm trying to help you avoid the landmines and the pitfalls that I didn't know about, and I had to stumble through and try to figure it out. So thank you very much, Coach Crump. Michael, closing thoughts about this work and these two presentations.
Closing thoughts. I feel like it was an amazing summer. You know, we put a lot of work into this, a lot of effort, and I'm proud of, you know, Joel and Eric, you know, all the work we've done with the other participants as well. My closing thought, like I said earlier, like, you know, you school administrators, you're in education business, you know, so this involves you have to educate your students on this. You know, I understand we have, you know, subjects that everyone has to learn, you know, but none of that matters if the student's mental health isn't there and they're not engaging. And so that's why I feel like this is extremely important. And like I said earlier, if you don't have, you know, crazy resources at the end, you can at least, you know, create a little flyer, put it all around, you know, put it in front of students and parents' face so that they know what's available to them and that they can, you know, take initiative on that. And so I feel like that's, you know, those are my final words. I just implore you all to do at least something.
Typically eloquent and brilliant, Michael. Just so y'all know, we had two Michaels in the summer. So he's young Michael and I'm old Michael. I started saying, young Michael, thank you, sir. Perfect tone and perfect touch to that. Brother Erick, closing thoughts.
I would say that, you know, as though it may seem obvious to say that, but listen to the youth nowadays, because nowadays you find young children or even, you know, people, you know, younger than I am, and I'm barely 18, that have lived a lifetime of experience already when it comes to stuff that they've been through. They're able to teach you a few things. They're able to sort of guide you in a way. And just because they're young shouldn't be, you know, sort of like a gateway that stops you from listening to. It's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're young. But there's a lot of people who know their stuff, and they're, you know, like I said, barely 18. They could be barely in their 20s. So just listen to them, hear them out, hear what they have to say. And of course, for the younger audience, always be willing to listen to the older folks, because they've been where you have been, maybe differently, but they've been in situations similar to what you have. And to the older folks, listen to the younger generation, because it's a new world, and the world is constantly changing, and they have information from today that you could use to make, your life a little easier, or to, enlighten you on certain things. So at the end of the day, just, hear each other out, hear what each other has to say. And, everybody always has something to say now.
What came to mind as you were saying that, Eric, listen to older folks because we've been there. I need to listen to younger folks because I haven't been there. You know a world I don't know. So it behooves us who are, especially if we're in an administrative position and we got a budget, don't plan everything based on my own worldview, but let's listen to the young people that are in the trenches and living in a whole different world. We joked about TikTok earlier. There's all kinds of stuff I didn't know anything about. I didn't have to deal with when I was a youth. So let's older people listen to our young people. Thank you, Eric. Joel Swazo, he's so silent, y'all. Y'all can see him sitting in the corner. Joel, I'll tell you, the other night in a production, you said something, man, and I'll tell you off camera, you blew my mind with your perspective about a story we told. So I always love how you sit back and listen, and then you just let us have it. So give us your closing thoughts about today and about these two presentations and the work that we've done.
Definitely, yeah. It's overall, it's always good to listen. And going back to what Eric said, he kind of just took the words out of my mouth. Me with my background, being in foster care now, it's starting to be a thing where they listen to the foster youth who have been in the system, who have aged out, who have turned 18 and are starting to start their own life. And these people who are legislators, who are policymakers, and who are high up in the chain of the government, making decisions for youth who are getting taken away from their families because of hardships or substance abuse. They're starting to look and interview youth and put people who have lived experience are listening to them. And some people are like, wow, I didn't even think about that, or they didn't understand that perspective. So Eric kind of just he took the words out of my mouth and just
I hear you, man. We should close with Eric sometimes because he can come up with some stuff. All of y'all just continue to amaze me. But Eric will sit there and say, "Oh, how can I follow that?" And then he follows it. So that's indicative of all of y'all. You brought a game every week, every day. Like I said, we were in the middle of the summer when almost everybody we wanted to be at the pool or the beach or doing whatever. Y'all showed up on time, really went to work. And in the case of this particular work, every Monday afternoon, you showed up ready to listen and get down to work. Before I let you give us your final closing thoughts, Christian, I forgot to thank during part one, so I need to do that. Paul Lee was our summer intern, and he came to at the 11th hour, we recruited him, and he led the youth very directly through that work that they've done. So thank you, Paul. I know you'll be checking this out. Forgive me for not putting that thank you on part one, but at least we got to it for part two. We couldn't have done it all without you. Thank you, Paul. Christian Jacobs, give us your closing thoughts before we get out.
I just want to say this is what it's about, Joel, Eric, and Michael, the advocacy, youth advocates, and the work you all are doing is amazing. And this is just the beginning. There's tons of opportunities and positions that are waiting for you right now at the higher education level. And as you were saying, Joel, now people are listening to the youth voice. And Eric, you preached, bro. You was preaching. When you said that, I was like, I wish someone who was younger taught me how to. For me, I was the athlete, so they treated injuries with pain pills. And here I am as a working person, who I work every day, dependent on an opiate. And I had no idea. And it took me 10 years to figure out, hey, you know what? This is something that's, not cool. So that's kind of what led me into my field of work. I've now lived experience being addicted to pain pills and not even knowing it, because that's the society. The doctor gives it to you as normal. So that whole journey that I had to go through just to be here today to help you all, and we have each other. Amazing. I just want to say that. And the second, for the administrators, it's really a matter, as Conrad said, put something on the website. Right now, if you don't have the money, there's free things right now. This right here is Narcan. They're giving Narcan away for free. And this is something you can give away at every location, at your school. And these are the test strips. What they look like. It's a fentanyl test strip, and it basically you use it for you want a drink, or if you're worried about a drug or something to eat. These are things that are free, and you don't need a prescription for them. We could put them in school. So that's the encouragement I want to really share, is at least do something that's free. You don't have the money. And then the last, I just want to say, just recognizing the historical harms of abuse within the communities of color, and understand that history part will better help us understand how to serve and move forward for our students.
Christian Jacobs, licensed marriage and family therapist. Coach Conrad Crump, my brother and Brother Be Well mentor. Michael Betlach, Erick Gonzales, Joe Swazo, students in this Summer Institute. I cannot thank you enough for your work, your dedication, your commitment, your energy, your enthusiasm. I love working with people who know more about stuff than I know. I love working with people that can teach me something. And across the board, all 5 of you, I would put in that category. So thank you very much. And I know through this work, we've taught a few people some things. Well, I'm not the only one that learned something tonight. So thank you very much. And I want to thank you for watching. This has been the end of part 2, rather, to a 2-part series. Again, as Brother Conrad Crump said, if you missed the first part, check it out. Part 1 on our website, brotherbewell.com is that site. While you're there, check out all the work that Brother Be Well is doing with regard to support behavioral health of boys and men of color. We're a membership-supported service, but you can join right now for free. So take care of that while you can. And while you're there, give us your email address, sign up for our blog, and then 3 to 5 or 6 times a week when a conversation like this goes live, you'll be among the first to hear about it. We've got videos just like this one on a variety of topics, audio podcasts, print pieces, compelling stories of resilience and strength. It's all on brotherbewell.com, and it's all right there for you. My name again, Michael P. Coleman. I'm content director for Brother Be Well. It's an honor of mine to serve in that capacity with you and for you. I want to ask you to do 2 quick things for me. Take great care of yourself, and then take great care of somebody else. Till next time, bye-bye.